Salutations and welcome to the James and Tom Do Horror Podcast, a podcast where two horror-obsessed filmmakers choose a different subgenre each show and pick their favourite old movie, favourite new movie, and favourite obscure movie from that subgenre. I'm Jimmy P of Mad Science Films, filmmaker and sexual astronaut, and as ever, I'm joined by my wonderful co-host.
I'm Tom Hughes from Ritual Video.
Okay, so this episode, Tom got to choose, and he chose the Christmas horror subgenre. So good pick, Tom. So what is it about the Christmas horror subgenre that you love so much?
I pretty much love any horror subgenre that just comes off somebody picking a random thing and then making as many films around that one thing as they can. Like, I feel like as soon as some of the films we're going to talk about today like come from before this time, but like especially after Halloween was made, like everyone's like, oh, an occasion, let's do Happy Birthday, let's do Graduation Day, like you know, and Christmas horror is like, it's one of those things where it got so over like proliferated in the 80s, especially like the 70s. It kind of started. The 80s it really took off, and people still making them every now and again now. But like, it's always a really fun movie when you watch a Christmas horror movie, because they always do like really nice, happy Christmas stuff mixed with really brutal horror stuff, and that's such a great mix, you know.
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, for me, it is that contrast between what's supposed to be the happiest time of the year, but bubbling on the surface. If we're real, it's usually pretty stressful for most people.
Yeah.
Especially, like the idea of, families come back together, which is then pretty stressful as it is. And then, as you say, contrast that with blood and gore and, general nastiness. Great. I mean, that is ticking the buttons for me. I think a couple of my picks, and definitely one of your picks also, what I really think about it is like Christmas has like its own mythology, doesn't it? Yeah. So either like drawing upon like the old European traditions of like Saint Nicholas and more recently, Krampus as well, or the weird modern Coca-Cola led American mythology that's developed as well. Yeah. So I mean, I know when I did my slasher, my Christmas slasher, one of the fun things for me was when I was writing the script was like, oh yeah, let's just choke a dude with fairy lights. Yeah. And again, because it's lights, it was a great visual in terms of lighting and everything like that. Yeah. Blood coming out of his mouth and all of that. Great fun. And morbid as fuck at the same time. Yeah, so no, I was really excited. When you chose this. Massive fan of Christmas horrors myself. So yeah, good pick, Tom. Alrighty, so if you want to kick off, mate, what is your old pick?
So my old pick is the grandfather of it all, the classic, the original Bob Clark Black Christmas from 74, maybe 75, I think.
Yeah, 74, I think. Yeah,
really amazing film, and it wasn't just. It's what I watch every Christmas. I watch it every Christmas Eve. I didn't rewatch it before this show because I can't bring myself to watch it on any other day apart from Christmas Eve. Really, it's like my tradition. When everybody goes to bed, I watch Black Christmas by myself just to kind of bring in Christmas nicely for me. But yes, it's a really amazing film, and it's one of the really early kind of proto-slasher films that kicked off the genre before Halloween came out, and it took off and became what it was. There's so much stuff in Black Christmas that became a staple, the POV, and they built a rig to attach the camera to the cameraman's chest so he could climb the outside of the building, and you can see his arms in frame, and just the people getting picked off one by one. But the beautiful thing about Black Christmas is how slow it is. It's creepy. It comes from a time where horror films weren't about really OTT gore or jump scares every 3.5 minutes or a scare every 4 scenes or whatever it's supposed to be now. It's literally like a really good drama with some really good actors. John Saxon's in it, Margot Kidder's in it. All the acting's great. It's lit really nice, it's shot really nice, and it's slow and it gets under your skin. It's really creepy. I don't know, but what I always wonder about Black Christmas is, was Bob Clark watching any of the Italian stuff that came before it? Because like Bay of Blood is a similar setup, and that was a few years before. Torso, like Sergio Martino's Torso, that was a year before. So had he seen that and gone, okay, because there's killer POVs in that with a hand pulling back a bush or watching people and the killer's breathing and all this kind of stuff. Like, so there were a few instances with the slasher genre had kind of started like to change from the giallo into the slasher, I feel like. But I think Black Christmas is where the first time somebody in America nailed the format and, you know, possibly did it so well. I don't know if there's a better... I don't think there's a more classy slasher film, even though it's on the outside it's just a Christmas slasher film. I really do think it's a really good piece of filmmaking. It's not just a body count or whatever, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I remember the first time I watched it, and I was loving it so much, and then the ending, where it's like, oh my god, it's not even, you know, who you've spent the whole film thinking it is,
Yeah.
and it leaves it on like the creepiest of all question marks at the end. Absolutely love it, dude. Yeah, the voice, the phone call, all of that stuff, mate. And as you say,
Didn't he do that stuff himself? Didn't he do the voices?
Bob Clark, I think so, mate. I think you're right. I mean, obviously, he's got some Christmas issues as well, because of course the other film he's very well known for is Christmas Story, which is a bit more of a traditional Christmas tale as well. But yeah, no, absolutely love it, mate. Good call. You beat me to it, so I've got one that's similar, and definitely similar vibes and similar stuff I'm going to say to yours. But yeah, it was fun rewatching it for this again, because it had been a few years since I've seen it. So have you seen either of the remakes they've done recently?
All right, so I watched the new one about 2 weeks ago. Pretty much hated it. It's exactly what I dislike about horror these days. Is it's just filmmaking by committee to be as kind of PC and placate every single audience possible by being very nice to everyone and very inclusive of everyone without actually having a good story. And the main thing that bothered me about it was they took it away from the mythology of Black Christmas and just kind of took it to, I won't spoil it, but they took it to a place that I was like, yeah, okay, but what's that got to do with Black Christmas? You know, what's that? Whereas if you look at the 2006 remake, that took the original mythology and expanded it. It gave you a backstory for the characters. It gave you a new world that was set in the same universe as the original, but expanded on it. And I almost nearly picked the 2006 one as my new pick. I was gonna go old Black Christmas, new Black Christmas, because I watched it again last week, like for the first time in probably about 10 years maybe. And when I saw it when I was younger, I remember it being really scary and really violent. And then I watched it now and I was like, oh, okay, it's not really scary, but it is quite violent. But the main thing that's amazing about it is how much love there is for the genre and how much love there is for the original in that film. It's such a great add-on, and I love where the director took the characters, you know. And I love if you watch the extras, the guy, you know, he wrote it and he directed it and he produced it and he's used the same team he's used on every film. He had made a film that had bombed before that, I think, and then didn't think he was going to get to make another feature. And then he got given this and he wrote it and Bob Clark liked it, and then he got Bob Clark on board and he's on the set while he's making it and he's asking. He did it the right way. Like, if you're going to do a remake or a reimagining, you do it the right way and you pay respect to the original and you have the original people involved as much as you can. And he just did it with the respect that it deserved, I felt like. And I really think, like, even though people tend to pan remakes a lot, I think it's one of the best remakes I've seen. I really do think, like, it's definitely worth watching both of them this Christmas, you know?
I'm going to have to dig it out because I have not seen it probably since it came out. And unfortunately, I kind of watched it back to back with a bunch of other remakes around about the time, you know, back when they did like April Fool's Day, the remake, Prom Night, the remake. So it for me at the time, it's all kind of muddied together. So yeah, I definitely have to do a rewatch just based on your recommendation there, dude.
It's a good one.
Cool. Okay then. So moving on to my old pick for Christmas horror subgenre, I've gone slightly earlier. So Silent Night, Bloody Night, aka the terrible named Death House, which just really doesn't help. From 1972, it shot in 1972. Depending on who you speak to, might have been released in 1974, probably to cash in on Black Christmas's success around about that time. Directed by Theodore Gashuni. yeah, as I say, it predates Black Christmas in terms of when it was shot and Halloween, as we've said. Arguably, then the first slasher film. But to be honest, like when I started researching the film, when we did the remake reboot, um, I'd actually argue it's an American Giallo film. And that's kind of what you were saying about Black Christmas as well, Tom. You know, like it's complete with its like complicated psychosexual back history of the characters. You know, leather gloved killers and a whodunit plot where you don't know, you know, who is the killer and everything like that. I love this film. It might just be because I watched it so many times in prep for, you know, when we did the remake. It's got a great cast. You know, you got John Carradine, you got Mary Warrenov, who I will watch anything with her in. She is like just one of those like movie stars. Like when I first watched her in Eating Raoul, I was just like, wow, this is amazing. And I've watched so many bad films with her in, but she elevates whatever she's in. Yes, Chopping Mall, another great one. Night of the Comet as well.
Oh, I love Night of the Comet. So good.
Yeah, she pops up in a lot of great films. So yeah, Silent Night, Bloody Night. Again, I love it. It's because it's like, as you said, like a proto slasher. The rules haven't been established, so there's this unpredictability about this and Black Christmas, which I really like. It's not a perfect made film. I think if you watch it, and I only really noticed it this time when I was rewatching it for the show, was there's pretty much like 3 exposition voiceovers that the film starts with. So you get a voiceover from Mary Warrenov explaining how she fits into it. You then get the story, and then you get like the solicitor reading like the last will and testament of the characters before you even get into the film. So like the first 10 minutes is like a huge info dump, which isn't, you know, as a filmmaker, isn't one of the best ways to kind of relate this information. And that's one of the things that we did when we did the remake, was we kind of tried to strip it back, keeping all of the actual backstory, but we dished it out a bit more throughout the film. So it's not this huge info dump at the beginning. But have you seen Silent Night, Bloody Night?
Okay, so yes, but when you sent me your pics, I misread it and I rewatched Silent Night, Deadly Night this week.
not the only person who's made that choice.
So I enjoyed that one, but I'd seen that so I watched the wrong one. I've seen your remake though. I've got your remake. It's on like a triple with some other things, isn't it? Or like a double disc or something?
Apparently so. As I could say, I don't think I've ever seen any money from Silent Night, Bloody Night.
Really?
So
how did you end up getting that anyway? Like,
again, so the original ended up in the public domain, and the producer, who let's just say I no longer work with, kind of came to me after we did the first film, and said, "Hey, you know, do you want to do a Christmas slasher film?" And I was like, "Yeah, well up for that." And then he was just like, "Okay, cool, we can do a remake of this." And I was like, "Okay, another remake." But like, I loved the original before, you know, like the discussion of doing a remake. And then when I rewatched it, I was on a massive Giallo kick at the time, and it was that connection for me that was like, well, this really isn't a slasher film. And it was doing all the digging and the history on it, you know, about it being shot in 1972. And absolutely, like you said, with Torso and all of that, where it's, proto-slasher, you know, late period Giallo film, that I was like, ooh, you know what? Like, Christmas slasher, great. But really, the chance for me on my second feature to do as a Giallo movie, I'm never going to pass that chance to do. So I absolutely recommend checking out the original before you check out our remake. Our remake suffers because, you know, we just didn't have the budget.
Where did you shoot
justice? All round Swansea way, in April, which is not a good time to try to shoot a Christmas slasher horror film. So
How long did you have to film it? How many days?
Oh God, I think that one was 10 days. So we were really lucky with the location that we got to play like the Butler household. So like, you know, the main old mansion house, which just that added so much to the film, and the layout was perfect for some of the ideas and the shots that we had, harking back to the original. So I mean, I look back on it fondly because, you know, I was shooting with a bunch of you know, mates and everything like that.
Did you
I
ever
got
get any
great.
flack for doing a remake? Did people complain?
Oh, always. But I think, to be honest, because the one we did before that was Night of the Living Dead, which of course is
Oh
one
yeah.
of the precious movies. Like everybody got their death threats out of the way by the time we got around to the second one.
Yeah.
With Night of the Living Dead, what was really hilarious about that was that for about a week we were the most hated people on the internet.
Really?
But thankfully a week later they announced the Evil Dead remake, and they
Great.
got all the hate then.
Great.
So it
Isn't
was one of those times.
Amityville in the public domain as well?
The Amityville one's a funny one. It's you can stick Amityville because it's a location onto the front of anything, so you
Okay,
can't do
cool.
it as Amityville. You can't remake the Amityville Horror,
Yeah.
but you could do Amityville whatever.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so yes, Amityville Asylum, Amityville
Yeah, yeah.
Playhouse. There's I haven't seen it, but I understand there's an Amityville vibrator out there as well. So,
Okay.
there we go. Yeah. So anyway, back to most importantly, Silent Night, Bloody Night. I absolutely recommend checking it out. Tom, do your best to check out the original. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
I'm going to watch that, and I'm going to watch yours again this week.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'll
if
double
you
feature
must.
the two of them.
There we go. All righty. Awesome. Okay, so Tom, what is your new pick for Christmas horror subgenre?
My new pick was more difficult because there's a lot of like modern Christmas horrors that I really enjoy. And I gotta be honest, the pick that I picked isn't the most Christmassy horror film ever.
Yeah.
I think it could be classed as a Christmas horror film. I know that there's a shot missing with Robert Forster wearing a Christmas hat in one of the scenes, so I know it was meant to be a Christmas horror film. It does take place in the snow. It is set around Christmas time, but it's not perhaps the most Christmassy thing ever. So it's Jim Cummins' second like major feature, The Wolf of Snow Hollow. I think it came out maybe last year or the year before. So Jim Cummins, really great filmmaker, really great kind of do-it-yourself indie guy. I think he was kind of self-financing a lot of stuff, and then he got some money from, it might have been Short of the Week, or it was some kind of short film production thing that gave him a budget to make a set of short films, which did really well. They're on Arrowplayer now. If you're in the UK, you can check them out. It's just called the Jim Cummins Collection, and there's like maybe 4 or 5 short films. They're all kind of romantic, most of them, but they're all one person kind of having a breakdown, and they're really interesting and really well made. So he kind of blew up on the short circuit. Then he made a short about a police, like a highway patrol guy having a meltdown at a funeral, and that took off. And then from there he got Thunder Road made. And if you haven't seen Thunder Road, highly recommend you checking it out. It's not a horror film. It's a really amazing drama that's funny and heartfelt, and it's probably just one of the best films I've seen in the last kind of decade. And the first shot is a 12-minute one-er that's the entire short film in one take. And then the title card comes up and the film starts. And it's amazing. You know, the first time I watched that, I was like, Jesus. So as soon as I saw that, I was like, okay, anything this guy does, I really want to see. And then I started reading. He's doing a horror film. It's like a wolf film, you know, it's going to be scary and everything. I couldn't wait. And then, yeah, I think I saw it the first time and I was slightly disappointed. But I think because I love Thunder Road so much. But I've watched it, I think, another 2 times since, and now I kind of get it more, and I really love it. And it's got that really nice small town Fargo kind of feel, where it's really snowy and everyone knows each other, and it's a bit backwards and it's a bit gossipy, and the characters are really good. He's the main character again. His acting's really, really great. And then Robert Forster's his dad, and it was the last movie he did, I think, before he died, actually. So it's, you know, he's obviously amazing in it, and yeah, so it's a really good film. I'd say it's slightly more of a horror comedy than just a straight up horror. It's kind of a mystery whodunit kind of thing. But obviously, you know, by the title there is a big werewolf in it as well. So it is
Excellent.
It is enough of a horror
no
film.
spoilers there.
Yeah, I mean you know that there's a wolf in it. So yeah. But it's a really it's a really fun film, and it's kind of a more light-hearted thing to watch around Christmas if you find it a bit heavy with all the body counts and stuff.
Nice. Yeah, no, I'm gonna have to check that out. I didn't get a chance to watch it before the show, but it is definitely again, massive fan of Thunder Road, so yeah, wanting to check that out definitely, man.
There's loads of really nice references in it too, man. There's a lot of even like the wolf is made, and like the way things move and the things that people say. There's like nice little horror references. He's done kind of the classic thing of naming roads after like people and all that kind of stuff. There's just loads of really nice nods to the genre. Like he's watched American Werewolf a lot, and he's gone back and watched The Howling. He's watched like maybe even Wolf or like Wolf and all these like classics, and then reinterpret them all into this small town kind of murder mystery with really, really good character stuff. So you're still watching a guy unravel essentially and try to juggle all these, like keep all these plates spinning the entire time, which is lovely to watch because you're just waiting for it all to fall apart. But then murders are happening at the same time that he's trying to solve, and it could be supernatural, you don't know what it is. It's just a really nice mix of things. It's nice to see when a good director like that, who's good at writing characters and really good at acting, incorporates horror into what he's doing. Because that's definitely the way to do it, isn't it? It's like get a really good film and then add horror into it, rather than just make a bunch of horror and not have any characters or drama or whatever in it.
Definitely, mate. Definitely. Yeah, I think that's one of the big things, especially about more recent horror films, is there seems to be like a return to focusing back on the characters and the scenarios that we put them through, what that actually means for them, how they feel about it, how they're developing, what decisions they make, which might not have been the case, in the past, where it was more plot led and, well, the characters have to do this so we can kill them in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So definitely.
Even every character you meet, like some of the characters you meet, they're not on screen very long, but you don't know that. And everyone you meet is so well developed. Like he's so good at bringing somebody in and making you care about them straight away by making them identifiable with, like, dealing with something that people can empathize with. So everyone you meet, you're like, hope nothing bad happens to them, which is so perfect for a horror film. I much prefer I hope nothing bad happens to them to these people are so annoying, I can't wait to watch them die, which is a lot of like 2000s slasher films. Like that was kind of the...
I think that, I mean, that comes from, like you were saying earlier, all like the Halloween rip-offs and everything like that was, they focused on the wrong bit. They focused on the gore rather than, what the original Halloween did so well was, I hope Jamie Lee Curtis survives, I don't want her to die. Yeah. Whereas, by the time we got to Friday the 13th and its sequels, it was just like, don't kill those kids.
Yeah. Or Urban Legend and I Still Know What You Did Last Summer and all that in the like 2000s or whatever it was. I mean, that was really, But yeah, definitely worth a watch. The Wolf of Snow Hollow, a weird Christmas pick, I think, but I like to try and have weird picks that people might not have seen, so definitely worth watching.
Excellent. Yep, we'll check that out, man.
What about your newer one then?
So my new one is 2015's Krampus. So there was like a shed ton of Krampus films released during that period. So it's the Michael Dougherty one with Adam Scott and Toni Collette in. I kind of sat on this because it was during that period when, there were like 15 Krampus movies being made, all with slightly different titles. And I kind of thought, well, how good are any of these going to be? And it was round about the time when like the Krampus story kind of became popular as a social media thing. Round about 2013 or whatever, like we started hearing more about it through social media. So I didn't check it out until a couple of years ago when it finally came to Netflix, and I just kind of thought it was Christmas time. I hadn't seen it. Let's watch it. Put it on. And I was really pleasantly surprised how nasty it goes. It's like a family Christmas film.
Yeah.
And it reminds me a lot of Gremlins in that, there's a lot of warm and fuzzy thing. It's got quite some established stars in it. So you think, everybody's going to be safe and it's going to be very PG horror. And there's some impressive monster designs, which I was really impressed with. Yeah. There's some impressive gore and there's quite a nasty streak running through it. And I was just like, wow, okay, my bad for kind of sitting on this and not checking it out. And like earlier when I was talking about kind of like the Christmas mythology, like the mythology around it, in the same way that there's, like a vampire mythology or a zombie mythology, werewolf mythology, the Christmas mythology about, like Krampus and Santa and all of that kind of stuff, I really liked how they kind of related it through this story. I mean, I was aware of it anyway, but the way that they, kind of told that tale in this film, I was fully on board with. So, is this one that you've seen as well, man?
I really like it. It's another one. I was such a huge fan of Trick or Treat that I went into it really excited to watch whatever he was going to make next. Watched it for the first time, was disappointed. Watched it again, really enjoyed it. Watched it again last week just for this. Really enjoyed it again. Like, I thought, how much he nails the like wonderful, happy, like John Hughes 80s Christmas feeling at the beginning. He nails it so well, and the tone of it's so lovely. And then when it does take a turn, it does get really dark and really like unravels pretty quickly, which is great, But it also it takes you a lot of places you don't expect it to go, and it's really fun. Like I definitely what I love about it is how much you get that warm Gremlins feeling. You know what I mean? You get that warm like kind of 80s nostalgic feeling almost watching a new film, and that's hard to pull off, man. Yeah, I really like it.
Definitely, man. Gremlins, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation with the cousin and that family and all of that. It was ticking those buttons for me, man. And I really enjoyed it. And my bad for just kind of sitting on it and waiting on it. But I absolutely blame the fact that at that year there were so many Krampus movies coming out. That I was just like, nah. I can't do it. But it will become a Christmas regular for me. So Christmas Eve, when the kids are gone to bed and I'm wrapping presents or constructing whatever toys they've got, I'm gonna have that on in the background. And, just enjoy it, man.
Yeah, it's really good.
Cool, awesome, man. So, what have you got for your obscure pick?
So obscure was it was between I Trapped the Devil and Rear Exports. I went Rear Exports because it's more Christmassy. I Trapped the Devil is technically set at Christmas, but it's not necessarily a Christmas film, I wouldn't say. Whereas Rear Exports is a film about Christmas, but it's a really offbeat, strange film about Christmas that it's kind of a similar thing to like Krampus, where like it looks like a Coke advert. The kid is like a little rosy-cheeked blonde boy looking through a snowy window out at the snow, and it's like there's fairy lights everywhere, and everything's lit really lovely and very warm and very nice. And then it ends up it kind of becomes this. It's got a really odd structure to it. Like I don't, the way it unfolds is like really really weird, and it goes to a lot of places you wouldn't expect. It's not like a straight up horror film. It's not even really scary. It's just quite kind of odd. And I think the reason I like it so much is because I watched it a few years ago when I was going on a big, because I'll watch all the Halloween films at Halloween, and every summer I'll watch as many slasher films as I can. I watch The Burning when it's really warm. It just feels right. So most winters I will go on a Christmas horror like binge anyway. This year I just got to talk about it with somebody else, but I wouldn't be doing this even if we weren't doing a podcast.
Yeah, good call, good call.
Yeah, I think I'd watched loads of Christmas films and got a bit burnt out on them, and then watched that one because I kept seeing it on people's lists of stuff to watch. And I don't know where it's from. It might be like Finland or Sweden, or it's somewhere Nordic anyway. And I think that like the language it's in and the place it's in, and like you said, the mythology of that place being so different. It kind of reminds me of what Troll Hunter did for the found footage genre for me. It put it in a place I'm not familiar with. It used local culture of that area, which most people aren't familiar with unless you're from there, and then it told the story in a different way, which was really fresh. Have you seen it? Did you like it?
Yeah, I seen it. I loved it. I saw it way back when in Abertoir Horror Film Festival. So the Horror Film Festival in Aberystwyth. I think it was 2010. They showed it, and I absolutely loved it. Went in blind, because Rare Export, that could be anything.
Yeah.
So I didn't know it was a Christmas horror film. Absolutely loved it. Yeah, it almost feels like, especially towards the end, more like an action movie, doesn't it? Like an action adventure film, just because it goes so epic or whatever, which again, based on where it starts, you're not expecting it to go to that place. And yeah, absolutely, like you were saying about Troll Hunter and everything, it's like this overseas locale, their take on it, just gives us, it's us with our fresh eyes enjoying a Christmas horror all over again. I know when you told me about that, one of the films I watched in preparation for this show and didn't quite make my choice or my honourable mention, but still worth a watch with Rare Exports, is Saint or Sint, And again does very similar stuff in terms of looks more at like the Saint Nicholas story and the history behind that. That kind of lens as a Killer Santa movie with supernatural elements and all of that. I absolutely recommend doing those two as a double bill. I'd say Rare Exports is a better film, but definitely check out Sint as well.
Yeah,
that goes
if you're going to
nicely.
have a beer, do Rare Exports first.
Yeah,
and by the time
call.
that picks up and you've had a beer, have another beer and do Saint, because that's much more actiony all the way through. Like from like half hour in, just a really crazy action film. But it's all, do you know what I loved about watching? I watched Saint for the first time this week because you mentioned it the other day. I'd seen posters for it. I'd seen it on lists, but never caught it. It's on Prime at the moment in the UK, so I managed to watch it. And what I loved is the dude did his own music, produced it himself, directed it. You know it was like a low but what he's pulling off with a low budget is amazing. Like he's doing some really good VFX stuff in that.
Oh, the horses, the horse running across the rooftop. I was just like, how?
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that I wouldn't even write into a script because I was like, okay, animals, VFX, rooftop, no, just I wouldn't even bother writing it down because I knew I could do it. But fair play to him.
He must have had a decent budget, but it's such an ambitious film anyway. I thought it was really good. I thought it was fun.
I really enjoyed it. Not my pick though, because I've got other films that I kind of rate over it.
Yeah.
So my obscure pick then is from 2018. It's Await Further Instructions. So at the moment this is on Netflix in the UK, directed by the awesomely named Johnny Kevorkian. I actually caught this at Fractured Visions Horror Film Festival a couple of years ago in Cardiff. I went in absolutely blind, didn't know anything about it. The poster's not particularly Christmassy either.
It looks like a sci-fi film.
Yeah. So probably the best way to enjoy it. So I'll try not to go into too many spoilers. It's set at Christmas time. It's kind of like a family coming back together for the Christmas meal. So again, very similar to the setup in Krampus and other things. Let's just say it starts off pretty strained as it is. Like the family don't really gel all that well cohesively. And then it just goes to the most mental, craziest places you can imagine. Again, it's one of those ones that starts at A and you could never predict where it ends up. The only thing I will say is it's kind of like a confined space film in that they've got to stay in the same place together to stay safe, kind of. But I don't want to say too much. So Tom, have you actually checked this one out yet?
I did. I watched it this week. I looked at it a whole bunch of times. And thought it was a dystopian sci-fi film and not watched it, and weirdly confused it with Upgrade. Have you ever seen the film Upgrade?
Yeah, right, no, I can imagine that.
The guy on the poster looks slightly similar to the guy that's in Upgrade, so I'd always kind of confused those two films together. But I did watch it this week, and it was the perfect setup, as you said. I didn't really know what it was. Wasn't really expecting anything. I was surprised it was set at Christmas. I was like, oh, okay, well, this is why he picked it then, I guess. It ends up being kind of like a really crazy, like some of the old Black Mirror stuff when they used to do. I mean, Black Mirror is really, really good, but when it was just kind of Charlie Brooker doing UK telly when he first started, he was really doing some crazy shit.
Oh, that first season,
and it
definitely.
reminds me of kind of the first couple of series of Black Mirror. And also, like you said, he does a really good job of like making one location really interesting. And also keeping you guessing as to like what's actually going on outside.
Definitely, man.
Which is it was cool. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. And again, I'm walking around it because I don't want to spoil it for people. But yeah, you can argue it's not that Christmassy, despite the fact it's being set at Christmas. But I will say, at the end, I read that totally as a nativity.
Oh yeah.
So that was my reading of it. Again, I absolutely dug it, man. And going in blind is the best way for it. That's what I love about horror film festivals as a fan.
Yeah.
It's just going in, letting somebody else have done the curation. And it's got to be people that you trust. That's why I love Aberist with the Abattoir one. Because I know the three guys behind that have got excellent taste.
Yeah.
And I love Fractured Visions because I know Phil, who runs it, has got amazing taste. So I'm like, okay, guys, just
Yeah.
You tell me what's good, and I'll sit in a room for 15 hours and watch a bunch of films. And I love it. I absolutely love it.
I saw Better Watch Out at Abattoir when I went to Abattoir.
Oh,
So that was one I considered for my lists as well. And one that I wasn't expecting. I don't think it was programmed with anything else Christmassy at the time. I don't even know what month it was I was in. Maybe it was November or something.
It probably would have been, they tend to be early November, don't they?
Yeah.
I'm not as massive a fan. Again, like, we'll avoid being too negative, but that one kind of suffered about something that you were saying with earlier, in that I just didn't really care enough about the characters.
It didn't happen to me the first time. It happened to me the second time. So the first time when I watched it in the film festival, because I was drinking, maybe I was like, this is fucking great. How much fun is this? And then I bought it on DVD. I waited for it to come out. I was like, right, it's coming out. That was one of my favorite films I saw at that festival. And I watched it and I was like, I didn't really enjoy it. Same thing happened to me with The Lodgers. Have you ever seen The Lodgers? Really loved it at Abattoir. Really enjoyed it. Spoke to the director, and then watched it afterwards. And I was like, it was good, but it wasn't as good as I remember it being there. But I think it's because you're in a room with all the people and you're excited.
Exactly. There are certain films which are just designed for festivals and play great at festivals, and it's great if you've got a couple of beers in you. Yeah. You're surrounded by fellow-minded horror fans.
Yeah.
Great. And then when you get home and you watch it, sober, by yourself or with somebody who's maybe not as hardcore a horror fan, you're like, I remember why I dug it, but it's not pushing those buttons again.
That's what happened.
That's happened to me.
More of my stuff played at horror festivals, so people dig it more. I'm actually getting stocking stuff at the fake Grindhouse trailer I made of like a Christmas slasher film. Yeah, it's playing at Soho Horror Festival, which is cool. Nice. It's online. But I will have something Christmassy played at a horror festival this year.
Excellent. Good stuff. Okay, Tom, so that's our main picks. So have you got any honourable mentions you want to give people a heads up on?
So I Trapped the Devil, the other one that I was going to select for my weird pick. Weird film. I mean, pretty much everything I'm going to say is a weird film pick most of the time. So it's an odd, kind of offbeat, really slow, slightly creepy film where you're trying to work out what's going on. Kind of my favourite thing. Jocelyn Donoghue's in it for a bit, and she's like one of my faves. Shot amazingly, one location again, set at Christmas, and just a really strange kind of offbeat. And I think it's on Shudder. Maybe I watched it on Shudder.
It's I'm not currently with Shudder, but I watch it on Prime Video, so it's on Prime Video as well.
Yeah, so Prime or Shudder, you can see it on both. Worth a watch. 1,000% though. What everybody should do, as soon as you listen to this podcast, listen to the end first, then pause it, go on YouTube and type in Treevenge. The best short film ever. Jason Eisner made it. Hobo with a Shotgun. He made Slumber Party Abduction Massacre in VHS 2, that amazing section with the alien abduction. Really great director, really great filmmaker. Now he's doing a bunch of Vice documentaries about wrestling.
Dark Side of the Ring, good show.
Treevenge. It's really short, few minutes, and it gets really crazy. Don't watch it with anybody too sensitive.
No, definitely. Good call as well, man. I'm glad we didn't wrap up this episode without mentioning it, because it's one that, I never make a point of watching, but it always kind of crops up on social media because somebody for the first time discovers it each year, and I'm so jealous of them discovering it for the first time.
There's a shot in the street where there's just carnage on it. There's one thing that's going on. I can't explain what it is because I'll ruin it for you, but there's one shot in the street. Just look in the background. Just look in the background in that shot and watch it a few times and just watch all the things that are going on in that one wide in the street because it's amazing.
Yeah. Nice one. Good call, man. Good call. Awesome. Right. Yeah, I watched I Trapped the Devil for the first time because of your recommendation. It was on my watch list. It's one I'd heard of. Didn't twig it was a Christmas theme. So again, great. This show's a great excuse for me to finally check it out. Really dug it. Really enjoyed it. I love those ones. And again, try not to be too spoilery, but I love those ones where it plays with is it in the character's head or not? And absolutely love it. There was a couple of other films, again, thanks to Abattoir, that I'd seen, which walk that same line. Have you ever seen a film called They Look Like People?
Oh, no, it's in my list because I love the poster.
Yep.
I haven't watched it yet, but it's been in my list since I saw the poster because I was like, oh, wow, it looks good. Is it a UK film as well?
No. It's either Canadian or US.
Right.
Again, I went in blind. It was just a film there. I love the look of the poster.
Yeah.
Didn't know anything about it. Very similar vibes to I Trapped the Devil. It was my joint favorite film that year with another one, which again is pushing those same buttons, called The Invitation. So again, I think that's on Netflix now. Yeah, Logan Marshall Green. So the guy who kind of looks like Tom Hardy but isn't Tom Hardy.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Those were my joint favourite films this year, and both of those again are doing is it in the character's head or is there something going on, and both like perfect at walking that fine line. And that's what I really liked about I Trapped the Devil as well. Was like, is this psychosis? Does it become mass psychosis? What is going on? Really enjoyed it, mate. And yeah, again, thanks so much for kicking me up the bum to actually make me go and finally watch the film.
You'll do the same now with They Look Like People. I'll watch that this week.
Yeah, definitely check that out if you can. I think that might be on Arrow Player. It definitely popped up somewhere recently, and I was like, "Ooh, okay, that's due a rewatch." Yeah,
because recently I've got Disney Plus and I got Now TV because the new Conjuring's on Now TV, and you get 3 months for like a tenner. So I was like, well, I'm going to buy the DVD anyway, so I'll just pay for Now TV and get the new Conjuring film, which was really good, and like I loved, by the way, even though loads of people panned it. I thought it was awesome. It was really,
I haven't seen the new one yet, but my wife. Yeah, my wife treated us to Now TV for Christmas. So, yeah, again, I'll be doing the same thing.
There's loads of really good stuff on there, yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Righty, Tom, were there any other honourable mentions you wanted to throw out there?
Yeah, so my last one was Silent Night, which is a really great, really fun slasher film, similar small town, snowy setting, but it's really brutal. And it it starts off pretty grim anyway. There is a bit of a nasty vein running through it. All the characters are pretty, they're pieces of work. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really well made and really fun. And it's only like 80 minutes or something. Yeah, Silent Night, really, really fun Santa with a flamethrower film.
I mean, what more do you need? Yeah. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to stick with Santa slashers then. So I'd recommend, if you guys haven't seen it, Christmas Evil, a.k.a. You Better Watch Out, from 1980. Imagine Silent Night, Deadly Night meets Taxi Driver with a batshit crazy ending that is both absurd and heartwarming at the same time. Just bizarre, absolutely bizarre. It feels like a grim character study of a person like Taxi Driver, a person with mental issues, going downhill, dressing as Santa while he's doing it, and putting people in danger. And then the ending. Is this one you've seen, Tom?
Yeah, I saw it a few years ago. I think I was expecting to watch a really kind of happy, upbeat film or whatever, and I was like, oh man, that was a bummer. It was good though, but it was like,
I just that ending though, just kind of left me with oh, okay, not sure what's happening there, but I kind of dug it. So there's that one. My one that was kind of vying for modern, so I was really umming and ahhing what my new one was going to be. So my runner-up to modern Christmas horror was 2008's The Children. So it's almost kind of, although it's not credited, it's kind of like a quasi-remake of either 1980's The Children or even earlier 1974's Devil Times 5. So it's a killer kid movie, but it's one that leans really heavily into the characters. And like we were talking about earlier, it's imagine, there's two sets of parents meeting up for a Christmas meal, and they've got a bunch of kids with them, and there's like a infection or something, and that turns these kids into killer kids, into evil little shits. Imagine being the parent who has to decide what they're going to do, and then imagine being the other parent of somebody watching the other couple trying to kill your kid. So it's all this family tension and everything like that. Very low budget, clearly, very small cast, one location again. I really dug it, and it came out in 2008. I didn't see it until a few years after that. Probably a good idea, because if I'd seen it in 2008, that would have put me off having kids for the rest of my life. Because even before they turn evil, they are stressful little bastards. So, yeah. Have you seen this one, Tom?
No. Weirdly, Devil Times 5 came on to Arrow Player this week, or Shudder this week, one of them.
Oh, okay.
I was like, oh, that sounds cool. I'll have to check that out. So I only just heard of that, but I've never heard of, what's it called? The Children.
Yeah, so
No, I've
check
never
out
heard of it.
check out like they don't credit as a remake, so I don't know whether it's just because they're in public domain or whatever. Now, The Devil Times 5 is a great 70s kind of grindhouse exploitation movie. And what works really great with that is they are evil kids who still act like kids. So they're still laughing and joking or whatever, and then they just happen to slit somebody's throat. Now, the 1980s The Children, that's kind of has more of a like ecological horror theme. So I think it's, from memory, it's been a couple of years since I've seen it, but from memory it's something like a chemical waste spill or something like that.
Okay, cool.
Terms them evil.
So
the new good call.
Cooties is so good, man. It's a similar
that is a good
thing,
one.
isn't it?
That is good. Absolutely. Same thing. I love the Killer Kids genre. Oh god, there's another one which I think is a Spanish one, which was called Child's Play, but then they renamed it something else when it was re-released over here. I'm completely drawing a blank what that's called. But again, that's like all the kids on an island turn killer, and then it's up to the adults to kind of save themselves. What I would say though, what I really dig about the 2008 one is it really looks at the characters, and it's character led. So the decisions the characters make are not because they have to get from A to B because the plot says so, but it's because it's what the characters would do at that time. And they spend enough time at the beginning establishing the characters. And there's a teenage daughter as well who's kind of on the cusp of, is she a kid or is she an adult, and what happens with that as well. So definitely worth checking out. That's on Prime Video as a freebie, so that's worth checking out. And finally, I'm going to do one which is, I would say, is horror. It's Game Over. So this one's from France, aka Dial Code Santa Claus, 1989, by René Manzor. So it's Home Alone before Home Alone meets And All Through the House. So the Tales from the Crypt episode where there's a disturbed man dressed as Santa trying to get into the house. So it's that the kid is obsessed with Rambo, hence the booby traps and everything like that. It's too close. I think the first Home Alone is like 1990. So it must be just a hell of a coincidence that these two films came out at the same time. But it's definitely worth tracking out. I think it is on Shudder or something now. When I tracked it out, I couldn't get it legally, so I think I watched a really bad non-dubbed, non-subtitled version. But it was, I got enough of the story that I still enjoyed it. On YouTube, but I think you can get it legally now on Blu-ray, as well as I'm fairly sure it's on Shudder. So check out Game Over, aka Dial Code Santa.
I'm gonna have to watch that. I've never heard of it.
It's really good, and honestly, man, it's spooky. Like apart from the Killer Santa, like how close it is to Home Alone. So definitely worth checking out.
And don't forget to watch Die Hard and Gremlins. You have to watch Die Hard and Gremlins every year. And also, I would say 8-Bit Christmas I watched this week, and it was absolutely great. So I saw the trailer. It's a bunch of kids trying to get a Nintendo. I was like, I'm on board. Set in the 80s, looks absolutely great. I watched it on Now TV and expected it just to be a comedy, and it was actually a really great, heartwarming thing. Mary cried at the end. I almost felt like I was going to cry at the end. It's really great. So if you're feeling a bit like, an emotional man in his 30s this week, then watch 8-Bit Christmas with your kids or by yourself and have a bit of a cry.
That's on my watch list, and cool. I will force the kids to watch that tonight.
It's good,
Good call, man. Good call. Cheers. Awesome. Okay, then. So, guys, let us know what Christmas horrors we haven't included that, is a grave oversight on our part. Do you agree with our choices, or are there any films there that we've suggested that you kind of think, what the hell are you guys thinking of? So next episode is my choice, and because we spent a good chunk of time talking about it this episode, I want to kind of elaborate on further. So Tom, next episode, let's do the Giallo subgenre.
It's going to be so hard because I've been writing a Giallo feature for the last month.
Excellent. Brilliant,
telling anyone, so obviously now I'm telling everyone. So I'm writing a Giallo feature that I want to try and make next year, and I've been watching as much Peter Strickland as I can fit into my eyes, and then all the classics again. So I've literally just done a month-long binge into Giallo while I've been doing this, so I'm ready.
Great timing, brilliant, awesome. Yeah. Alrighty, I'm gonna get in there quick as soon as we get off this call. I'm gonna get in there and Bagsy my picks.
Yeah, I was gonna say because you know exactly what I'm picking already before we even. Someone needs an Argento pick.
Brilliant. Good call, man. Good call. Awesome. Yeah. So, guys, next episode we are going to do Giallo films. Let us know of any picks that you want us to kind of talk about and mention. Yeah, I like just off the top of my head, I can think of half a dozen. So my thing is going to be narrowing it down.
Yeah.
But I've got my obscure one, and I'm definitely going to pick that one because it's a favorite. So yeah, but we'll leave that till next episode. Okay, guys. So thanks again for joining us. We're on the social medias. So we're on Twitter as James and Tom Do. And we're also on Instagram as James and Tom Do Horror. Guys, look after yourselves over this holiday break.
Have a nice Christmas, isn't it?
Exactly. And
this is going to be out on Christmas Eve, isn't it? So
we're aiming for Christmas Eve.
Happy Christmas.
Have a good one, and we'll catch you in 2022.